Hello, this is Michael Feeley, and welcome once again to my podcast, The Secrets of Da Vinci. So I've done a number of these podcasts now, and I hope it has been of some value to you. Today, again, I will talk about seemingly numerous things, but I will always state each week that everything I talk about all relates to one thing. So let me begin with creation. Just imagine you are the universal mind. You are that mental singularity. You are in the darkness of the dreamless sleep. And we can all appreciate that feeling. Imagine that you wish to experience something outside of that darkness. Imagine you wish to experience what life would be like. Imagine you wish to experience indeed what you are. So you have an idea. And it is that idea that became the Big Bang of science, the epiphany. And all of a sudden, this mental singularity began to dream, began to have the dream of life. It fragmented itself into trillions of parts, each eyes and mirrors to look back upon itself, to understand what it is. One soul fragmented into many parts. And this is a demonstration of that. So we have one soul, which is the universe, that expresses itself in trillions of different ways. This is known mystically as the water of the leaf. The water of the leaf simply means an individual entity, an individual expression from the point of origin. And that is symbolized by the Christian fish. So we have this mental singularity that is now having a dream, a nesting dream, a dream within a dream within a dream. Each of us are part of that dream. Each of us are living a dream. Our reality is a dream. But we are dreaming life. We are having a sensory dream. And we report back to this universal mind. Now, when we dream at night as individual expressions, the micro of the macro, it is a place in the brain called the hippocampal. And it is the hippocampal that is known as the black hole of the mind. Now, when you take that and scale it up to the universe, it becomes the black hole of the universe. So the hippocampal, the black hole of the mind, facilitates our dreams. Black holes of the universe facilitate the dreams of the mental singularity, the universal mind. So we have the dimensionless universe, and we have the dimensional universe. We have the universe of thought and light, and we have the universe that we believe to be a material universe. So all emanates from this 0 point. Now science, mainstream science, has said that in around about 6.4 billion years, that there will be no physical universe. What they're actually describing is when this mental singularity has experienced all aspects of itself, and it therefore goes back to 0 point. It goes back to its own darkness of a dreamless sleep. Only now it is greater enhanced. Only now has this character we call God been created. So this is the universal creation. Everything works in cycles. There is a cycle of forgetfulness, so that the universe can also delay fully knowing itself. Because the moment that it does fully know itself, the game has ended. It is the end of the physical universe, as science describes. And how it does this is more that science becomes microscopic, the smaller the universe becomes. The more that science becomes telescopic, the more the universe moves away, in order to delay fully knowing itself. Now, because it has this veil of amnesia, this forgetfulness, it is always doing things for the first time. And an analogy that I like to give is that you are in a cycle race in one of these Olympic domes. And each time you go over the finish line, you forget the previous lap. So your second lap is still your first lap. Your third lap is still your first lap. You are forgetting the previous in order to do everything again, fresh. So this is the universal creation. There is no matter, there is no stuff, there is shape in motion. It is all a dream. And when you begin to realize that it is a dream, you can begin to create your own dreams, the dreams within the dream. Now, one of the children's nursery rhymes allude to this with the words, "Merrily, merrily, 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 life is but a dream," because that's exactly what it is. So I will now move on to religion. A religion that is trying to find the God that I've just expressed does not yet exist, has not yet been created, because the universal mind has not yet created it. And the word God simply means balance. So when you go into a church that is deliberately imbalanced, you can never find God. And the imbalance comes from the suppression of the divine feminine. And this is the same throughout religion, even into Masonry. So what is religion really? Words have multiple meanings. And when you go back to the origin of their meanings, it can often mean something completely different to what we believe it means today. So religion also means to suppress, to put someone in a lower status than yourself. And this is exactly what the priests and the priesthoods have done to the parishioners. They put themselves on this pedestal. They are putting themselves above the people. They are saying that you can only find God through us. You can only have the interpretation of these holy books through our interpretations, because they never wanted people to become their own pope. And what I mean by that is they didn't want people interpreting the holy scriptures for themselves. They had to go through officialdom to get an official version of events. There are many things that I could say about religion, and indeed I will. Not just today, but in the coming podcasts, because again, it is a subject that is close to my heart. When I go past a church or a cathedral, if circumstances permit, I have to go inside, because there is a secret language going on that I'm able to read, that I'm able to understand, that I'm able to interact with. But most people will just walk past, will just see a really nice geometric shape, not realizing is that this is an advanced language. So when we look at the Bible is really an initiation manuscript. It is for the initiates into the secret mysteries. It is not to be read as a book. And if you read it as a book and believe the stories as historical fact, you are missing the meaning. If I was to go out now into any town or city in this world with a Bible and was to pass that Bible to passers-by and say, "Can you read that to me?" I guarantee probably 10 out of 10 would open the book and read it from left to right. Straight away, that is incorrect. When you look at the likes of the Egyptians, the Egyptian Gnostic system is the original Bible. But when you look at the likes of the Egyptians, when you look at the likes of the rabbis, when you look at the likes of the mystics, when you look at the likes of Leonardo da Vinci, they read and they write from right to left. It is bringing themselves back to their heart center. So When you read the Bible, you should be reading it from right to left. Let's take the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. You read it not from Genesis to Deuteronomy, but from Deuteronomy to Genesis. You do it backwards. Another thing to contemplate is a statement from Pope Leo X when he said, "It has served us well, this myth of Christ." Now ask yourself, where does the image of Christ actually come from? Because there is no description in the Bible. There is no description in any religious books. In fact, there's no description whatsoever in terms of what Christ looks like. So where does the image come from? It is obviously a concoction of the Church of Rome. Because during the Council of Nicaea, they decided what Christians were allowed to believe. They edited and produced this book called the Bible and said, this is historical fact, you will believe it. We have this character, this central character of this religion, Christianity, called Christ. And it was the Council of Nicaea, the Church of Rome, under Emperor Constantine, that awarded this character his divinity. So this character is purely non-existent. It is a metaphor. It is a metaphor for a sacred conveyance of truth. If people say to me, do you believe in Jesus Christ? I will say, which one? Is it the Jesus of St. Peter? Or is it the Christ of St. Paul? Because St. Peter says that Christ is external, which is not right. And St. Paul, or Saul, says that Christ is within. It is an internal presence. It is an internal illumination. And that is correct. But because the church wished to control people, because it wished to give somebody an external saviour, which will never come, they went with St. Peter. Peter is Petros, which is rock. This is why they class St. Peter as the foundation of Christianity. Not only did first century biblical writers not mention Christ, but neither did the Jewish mystics that wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. Christ is never mentioned in first century biblical writings or in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Why is that? Because Christ is not a physical person. It is a metaphor. So, on that basis, I will now move on to another part of the Bible, and that is Adam and Eve. So, in Genesis, in the Bible, we are told that God created Adam, the first man, in the Garden of Eden. And from the rib of Adam, he created Eve. Is this an actual story? Or again, is it a metaphor containing a mystic truth? I can say that it is the latter. It is a story conveying a mystic truth. So when we look at Adam and Eve, the letter A for Adam and the letter V for Eve. And how this works is in Hebrew, you have rib, which is really the word selah, which means beam. So it is the beam of the letter A. So when we remove Adam's rib, we remove the beam of the letter A. And because Eve caused Adam to fall, we invert the A, which becomes the V, which becomes Eve, which in Latin is vivus, which means alive. We are told that Eve means life. So when we get the A and we insert it over the V, not only do we get the Masonic square and compass of Masonry, but we also get the Star of David. And I will in a moment go into the letter G of the Masonic compass. So we have the Star of David, Adam and Eve, the Masonic compass, which is really the hexagram. Now, when we look in the Bible, it says, in the beginning. Well, the word in the beginning in Hebrew is Bereshith. And Bereshith means, in the beginning, he created the six, the hexagram, the Adam and Eve. It is geometry. And in a previous episode, I went into how there is no matter, there is no stuff. It is just pattern and form in motion, which is geometry. It is talking about geometric creation. Now, when we look at the biblical 6 days of creation, 6 days has 144 hours. Now, 144 is a light code that I've mentioned previously that I've found in all things. Now, when the Bible says that from dust you came, to dust you shall return, again, in ancient Hebrew, which is really the language of Egyptian priests, the word dust means particle of light. So what the Bible is really saying is from light you came, to light you shall return, which is 144, which is light. 144 is also the harmonic of 144,000, who are the 144,000 at the right-hand side of Christ. It is all geometric. So let me briefly now deal with Adam and Eve's sons, Cain and Abel. What is Cain and what is Abel? When you look at mysticism, they also talk about a chakra system where this Kundalini serpent power travels from your root chakra to your crown. And I'll go a little bit more into this when I speak about the story of Moses in the coming moments. But when this Kundalini energy transitions from one chakra to the next, this is known in mystical terms as killing your brother. In the Bible, you will see that Cain kills his brother Abel. It is really referring to this process of illumination through Kundalini rising. Now, the Bible goes into the Garden of Eden, which is really the body. And it talks about the tree, the central tree of Eden, in which God exists. Now, the tree are the lungs and the capillaries and the nervous system of the lungs. And in the Hebrew Bible, the God is Yahweh, or as a tetragrammaton, it is YHWH. YH means to inhale, and WH means to exhale. So God amongst the tree in the Garden of Eden is the breath of life. And the Bible says, give and you shall receive. So you breathe out, you give, you breathe in, you receive. So God in the tree of Eden is the breath of the lungs, which gives us life. And the word Eve means life. So that, in essence, is the Adam and Eve story. Of course, you also have the serpent. And Adam blames Eve, and Eve blames the serpent, which is indicating that man and woman do not take responsibility for themselves. The serpent really tempts man to the knowledge of himself. Why is it that subsequently we have said that the fruit of the tree is the apple? Because when you slice an apple widthways, it reveals the pentagram. And the pentagram is the symbol of the mistress. So just to sum up the Adam and Eve story, which again could be an entire podcast in itself, but the Adam and Eve story is geometric creation. That geometric creation comes from the 0 point. It comes through the symbol of the Vesica Piscis, which is the source of all form. And again, when I speak about Mary Magdalene, I'll go into that a little bit later. So now, let me speak briefly about another biblical story, which is the story of Moses. Now, we are told that Moses was born in Egypt. But again, is that a real thing, or is it just a metaphor of knowledge? When we look at the true name of Egypt, we see that it is Kemet. Now, the letter M in Kemet is Mem, which in Hebrew is water. We are told that Moses means drawn from the water. It's not what it means, but this is what we're told it means. So the M of Kemet is Moses. And this is how Moses is born in Egypt, by virtue of the fact that it is written within the word Kemet. So what about the Moses story? Moses is the title of an initiate. And when you walk up to the Sphinx of Egypt, between its paws, you will see the stele of Tutmosis. Tutmosis is Moses. It is a message, it is an inscription for the initiates who are just about to enter into the temple of Venus, the pentagram. Now, the face of the Sphinx is the high priest of initiation. So Moses then is an initiate. Going back to the chakra system, we have the root chakra, which in the Hebrew translation means captivity, Egypt. So you have the Israelites, the initiates, who are trapped at the root chakra in captivity, which is Egypt. But they take this journey through the chakras until they get to the crown chakra, which is known as the promised land, the land promised, the illumination of the burning bush. But that journey is the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance in mysticism is known as the open sea. Now we get into the story of the Red Sea being parted. It is the open sea of the journey from root chakra to crown chakra. And there's many other composite parts of the story, but I'll just deal with the main aspects. So Moses, the initiate, is led from root to crown through the open sea, through Sinai, when he goes to the top of the mountain to be spoken to by God. Moses is separate from the people, the same way that the initiate is separate from the population. And the secrets, well, God speaks to him in private, which is what happens in an initiation ceremony. And the initiate, at some point, as he or she goes through the different degrees, will reach the burning bush, the promised land, the illumination of the mind. Now, the reason all this happens in Sinai is because in the Egyptian language, Sinai means teeth, and it is the nourishment of spiritual knowledge. Again, I will go into the mouth in a subject later on in this podcast. So the Moses story, therefore, is one of initiation, one of the transition from root chakra to crown chakra, from lack of knowledge to higher knowledge, from ignorance to wisdom. That is the story of Moses. And as I said, there's many other composite parts, but each of those composite parts, like the brazen serpent, like the manna bread, like the staff of Moses, like the chariots, are all relating to the same conclusion. So there's really no need in this podcast to go into every single part of the story, because they all relate to the same thing, the inner illumination of the mind. That, in essence, is Moses. So now, as stated, let me go a little bit into Mary Magdalene. We are told in the Bible that Mary Magdalene was the beloved disciple. People say that in Da Vinci's Last Supper, the feminine-looking apostle is Mary Magdalene, the one who he loved above all else. On another podcast, I will go more into detail about the secrets of the Last Supper. But Mary Magdalene, which has a numerical value of 153. As I said, it is the Vesica Piscis, which is the source of all geometric shape. Now, inside the mandala, from left to right, it has a unit size of 153, which is Mary Magdalene. Now, the first shape that emanates from the Vesica Piscis, the womb, is the triangle, the Trinity, which is 180 degrees, which is 1 pi radian, pi. Now we have Mary Magdalene Day, or the Feast of Mary Magdalene, on the 22nd of July. 22/7 is an abbreviation of pi. So all of this is encrypted. But we also have within the mandala, the inner essence, the almond, the fish of Christianity, as I've said in other podcasts. Now, the fish of Christianity also relates to the individual expression of one soul, as I said at the beginning. The word fish also means the mouth of man. So how is that significant to Mary Magdalene and the Vesica Piscis? We have in the body, or certainly the feminine has within the body, the divine mirrors, the sacred twins, and that is the yoni and the mouth that are joined together. So the womb is attuned to the frequency of creation, which is why in church we sing hymns. Hymn comes from the word hymen. So Mary Magdalene is really the wisdom of the womb. It is the source of all geometric creation, which gives us the fish, the eye colouring of the Egyptians, and it gives us the mouth, the fish of Christianity, the individual expression. That is Mary Magdalene. So who is Mother Mary? Well, in essence, it's the same thing. Mother Mary, obviously, we are told, is the mother of Christ. But Mother Mary, just like the goddess Diana and many other fertility goddesses, is really Venus, the planet Venus, which gives us, again, the pentagram. Because every 8 years, Venus creates a pentagram as it orbits the sun. So when you do the mathematics of 8 times 5, it gives you 40, which is the amount of days that Venus is in retrograde. The number 40 is a significant number biblically. So we have Mother Mary, which is Venus. Now, the world of Venus is the heavens. You have Mother Mary, which is Stella Maris, the star of the sea, which is Venus, the pentagram, and the sea is the cosmic sea, from which we all have this individual expression from this cosmic sea. But when you look at mystical teachings, they talk a lot about the honeybee. Now, this is significant in Egypt with the Merovingians, Rosslyn Chapel, the Knights Templars. All of these ancient secret societies and ancient knowledge keepers speak extensively about the honeybee, and how the humming of the honeybee really activates the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, which is known as the elixir of metamorphosis. But in nature, you have the queen bee, who gives birth through what is known as parthenogenesis, which in layman's terms means virgin birth. This is the virgin birth spoken about in the biblical story of Jesus. Again, there are many other composite parts to this story, but in essence, Mother Mary is the queen bee, but also Venus, of which the bee is an incarnation, and they are all the cosmic sea, the cosmic womb. So we have to transition from here back to there. Higher understanding has the number 9. Now, when we come into this world, the fetus is upside down in his or her mother's womb. So the number 9 is inverted to the number of man, which is the number 6. And through self-development, self-evolution, we have to invert the number 6 back to number 9, higher understanding. So this is really the story of Mother Mary. Now, Mother Mary is really associated with the colours white and light blue. The significance of this is that a queen bee will live for 5 years. The number 5 again relates to the pentagram. But the initial colour of the queen bee is white, and on the 5th year of the queen bee's life, she is light blue. So therefore, white and light blue is the lifespan of the queen bee. This is Mother Mary, which is really in essence the same as Mary Magdalene. Both of them are womb wisdom. These are the two Marys, and Mary of Bethany is also the same character, but I'll go into that another day. I've already mentioned in brief what Christ is, which is your inner potential. But in the kingdom of the insects, Christ is the carpenter bee, who is a solitary bee who lives by itself. And this is how the Bible describes Christ, as a solitary character. So in the world of nature, we have the queen bee and the carpenter bee. How does nature become significant? Well, the Egyptian goddess Isis, who is also a prerequisite for Mother Mary, is the nature of existence. The veil of Isis is the inaccessibility of nature's secrets. And nature reveals her secrets to us through the golden ratio, through phi, which again can be related to 6 and the hexagram. When we put the pentagram and the hexagram together and we merge these two geometric shapes, it gives us the 7-horned goat that Revelation states Christ appears as. All of these things are geometric. They are the emanation from the cosmic womb, the cosmic sea. We are all expressions, individual expressions of the cosmic sea. We are all fishes, the fishes of Christianity. We also have the story of Longinus, who was the Roman soldier that was instructed to thrust the spear that we now know as the spear of destiny into the torso of Christ to ensure that he had died on the cross. Now, in secret societies, they believe that the teachings of Christianity are in error, that they are false teachings. So, thrusting the spear of destiny into Christ signifies the end of Christianity, the end of the false teachings. So when Longinus is shaking the spear to make sure Christ has died, when we get the word spear shaker, we get Shakespeare. And within the works of Shakespeare, there are many mystic teachings that put right the wrongs of the false teachings of Christianity. So again, that in essence is the story of Christ. What I will do now is talk about what is Solomon. What is Solomon's temple? What is the Ark of the Covenant? The Bible speaks a lot about Christ being crucified in Golgotha, in Calvary. Calvary comes from Calvaria, which means the head. Golgotha means the place of skulls. It is the head. The number 22, which is significant in mystical teachings, relates to the 22 bones of the skull, where we get the light to become enlightened. So if everything is talking about the head, it then makes sense that so is Solomon, so is Solomon's temple, because Solomon is the brain. Solomon's temple is the hippocampus, which relates to the learning process of the mind. Now, in the Knights Templar system, they have Baphomet, and there are many truth groups out there that have this completely wrong, claiming that Baphomet is some kind of Gout Mendes satanic ritual. Baphomet really means father of the temple, and that temple is called the Holy of Holies. Solomon's temple is the hippocampus. So it is not anything to do with Satan, it is to do with illumination. As I said at the beginning, when I spoke about the hexagram and the Masonic square and compass, when you look at the Star of David, the hexagram, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places, 6 points, but the center is the 7th. The center of the Masonic compass is the letter G. So what does it stand for? G relates to the mystic number 7, the gamut, which is the limit of human range. Now, as I've said previously, we also have the governmental meetings called the G7, which is no coincidence. But even the head relates to the number 7. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth, the number 7. In the skull and crossbones, we have under the skull the number 322. Now, when you look at Genesis 3:22, it talks about paradise lost. What is paradise lost? Paradise comes from paradisos, which means the place of conversion, the head. It's all talking about illumination of the body. Even when we look at the cross is the physical body that we all have to bear. We have to carry it around with us. But you can see that there are 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the cross. So we have the cross, which is the body, and we have the 4, which relates to the material world in which we find ourselves, the great ordeal. But it also means the manifestation of light in that realm. It is the light that we're all trying to find. So therefore, Solomon's temple, Baphomet, is all the hippocampus, the place of learning. Now, Greek philosopher Plato tells us that Atlantis can be found beyond the Pillars of Hercules. So what are the Pillars of Hercules? Well, the Pillars of Hercules are the anterior fornix of the brain, round about there. So when you go through the 2 Pillars of Hercules, you are now in the mind. So Atlantis is not a lost city. It is paradise lost. It is illumination lost. Now, in medical terms, your 33rd and final vertebrae of the spine is known as Atlas. The word Atlantis means the island of Atlas, which is the head. The head is the island of Atlas, which is your 33rd vertebrae, which helps the head to be stable at the top of the body. Now, when you look at the reactivation of Atlantean crystals, in between your pineal gland and your pituitary gland, there is a region called the crystal palace. This is the reactivation of Atlantean crystals. Atlantis is the mind. Atlantis is the illumination of the mind. That is what Atlantis is. So what is Lemuria? Lemuria comes from the word Mu, M-U, which relates to the Egyptian god Osiris. Osiris means open eye, which relates to your 3rd eye. So Lemuria, Mu, is Osiris and mysticism. Again, it is the path of wisdom. All of these things are the path of wisdom. So just to finalise, I will briefly deal with Noah and the ark. Noah in Latin becomes no, N-O-E, which again relates to the mind. The dove is the messenger of Noah. The messenger of the mind, the messengers of the brain, are the neurons that send electrical signals. Those electrical signals are often arced. They are arcs of electricity. It is Noah's Ark, which is the mind, which is the electrical circuit of the brain. Now, going back to Solomon's temple, the hippocampus, inside your hippocampus, you have your alpha, beta, gamma, and delta brainwaves, which are also electrical arcs. So they are the Ark of the Covenant. All relates to the mind. All relates to the illumination of the mind. And these biblical stories and stories of other religions are talking about the same thing. How you go from number 9 to number 6, back to number 9 again. How you come from the cosmic sea. How you become an individual expression, which is symbolized by the fish. How you then self-develop and return back to the cosmic ocean. This is what is meant by the womb symbol that is given extensively amongst the hierarchy of this world in a public place. All speak of your illumination. All speak of your self-development. All speak of your condition and a transition to your potential. Thank you very much for watching this episode with me, Michael Feeley. You've been watching The Secrets of Da Vinci, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you.